Crop Talk on Market Journal is supported by Nebraska's soybean farmers and their checkoff. Finally today, we have a new Crop Talk segment to share with you. Last month wrapped up a series of workshops known as Confronting Cropping Challenges. This workshop series gave Nebraska producers the opportunity to learn from cropping issues that impacted growers during the 2022 growing season. Market Journal's Bill Dodd brings us this story.
Just make sure that you have everything set up correctly.
From late November to mid-December, Nebraska Extension hosted a number of workshops titled Confronting Cropping Challenges. Program topics ranged from combating tar spot to managing nutrient and herbicide carryover from the drought conditions many producers have been dealing with.
Well, it would be nice if we could get caught up a little bit and get out of this drought situation. We've got a long ways to go, but we also need to keep in mind that with that there could be nitrogen losses through leaching as well. We just need to keep an eye on that. Your yields are likely to be lower, especially in dryland situations, and if your yields are lower, it makes sense that you would have less nitrogen uptake and less uptake of other crops as well. But for nitrogen, it's important to soil test and get a for sure feel for what you have, but you also need to keep into consideration that if we get moisture, which I hope we do before this spring, that a lot of that could be lost. So it's better to soil test in the spring to get a feel for what you have there. So things to think about if we do have nitrogen in the soil for next spring is that we can use that for a corn crop next year. And the important thing is to just keep in mind that it may be a good idea to apply a little bit less up front if you side dress applications, and then monitor your crop and apply a little bit more later on.
Drift is another issue that many producers have dealt with in past seasons, and an issue that many extension educators receive questions about on an annual basis. However, it's difficult to know if chemical drift is impacting your crop before you have it tested. In any case, the most important thing you can do to help avoid drift is to follow your labels to the T.
Every season, somebody will come with either a plant of some sort, it could be a tree or vegetable crop. They say, the leaves are curling, and it must be a drift from, some chemical that was sprayed. But curling of a plant's leaf can happen due to various, things. It could be drought, it could be disease, it could be temperature, and of course it could be chemical. So until you send it and have it diagnosed, it's very hard to tell whether that curling is caused by a drift or not. So in general, drift happens because people go out and spray without following the label on the chemical. The chemical that you buy and spray usually has what we call a label, and the label tells you what the threshold temperature might be, because some chemicals will volatilize above that temperature. Some chemicals have a threshold of wind above which you shouldn't spray. Sometimes when it's very calm, we think that's an ideal time to go out and spray. And actually, if the wind speed drops below 3 miles per hour, when it's really very calm, so there is a probability of what we call temperature inversion. When there is an inversion, that means there's no mixing. The chemical will just stay suspended in air, so the slightest wind will carry it away. A 3 mile per hour wind probably can carry that thing 3 miles away in just an hour.
As herbicides, pesticides, and other chemicals continue to rise in cost, another thing producers may need to consider as they gear up for spring is calibrating their sprayer in order to ensure proper uniform application during the spraying process.
So when it comes to calibrating your sprayer, you should definitely do it at the very beginning of the season, at a minimum. So usually we recommend having new tips, or at least inspecting the spray tips that are on that sprayer, making sure that everything is set up correctly, doing a few testing with flow rates. But a lot of those new sprayers have rate controllers that you can help kind of automate that calibration process. But at the beginning of the season, for sure. And then as you go through the season, there are some other cases where you might consider recalibrating. if you're going to be using a new product, if you're going to be spraying a different crop, if there's something else that looks weird on your machine, or if you end up having to replace your spray tips mid-season or during the spray season. Those are cases where we would recommend that you recalibrate and just make sure that everything is fine.
As every planting and growing season comes with its own set of challenges when it comes to crop production, following these tips could help you confront some of the challenges that many producers have faced in 2022. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.